My people, we're ready to mount up like an eagle. Stand and fight against evil. A system rigged and deceitful. King.
Welcome to King Talk Radio, where we are all about truth, community, and discussing the issues you care about because we care about you. I'm your host, Adam Coleman, and my guest today is a gentleman who earned himself a BA and a BS degrees with a triple major of finance, economics, and business management. He went on to obtain a master's degree in mathematical statistics from the University of Kentucky, as well as a PhD in finance from Ohio State University, formerly a faculty member in the finance department in Syracuse. My guest has authored a number of books, including Financial Lovemaking 101, What If George Bush Were a Black Man, which we'll get into that a little bit later, and Everything You Wanted to Know about college, and a number of other titles. He is a founder of a variety of wealth education resources, such as the Black Wealth Boot Camp, the Black Business School.com, which has 45,000 students presently, the 48-hour business school, and just a number of other resources that are benefiting our community. This gentleman makes regular appearances on just about everywhere you could name, including CNN, Good Morning America, MSNBC, and a host of other media outlets. Later on this month, he will be heading up the All Black National Convention, which we will definitely be getting into in a moment. And to go along with all that, I'm told that in his spare time, he has discovered a cure for cancer, brought peace to the Middle East, and solved world hunger. So, with that said, I would like to give a King Talk Radio welcome to Dr. Boyce Watkins. How you doing there, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great, and I gotta finish up this cancer cure. So we gotta make it quick, man. I'm messing with you. Thank you for the introduction, brother. I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad to have you on here, man. I know you got a wealth of information. Now, I gotta put the pressure on you early, man. I was talking to my wife about having you on the show, and we know you're the money guy, man. So I'm trying to get my bread up. So no pressure or whatever, but in this interview, I got to come away with something, man. I got a lot of things riding on this interview. I need to get that move to Guyana money. You know what I'm saying?
I heard that.
Right. Well, I'll tell you about, let's go there, man. I understand you just moved to Guyana. How you fitting in down there, man? How things flowing for you?
Oh, man, I love it. It's beautiful. It's hot. It's cultural. It's, black and brown, and it's just, it's something different. We have a president here who's not named Donald Trump, which that right there is
okay.
is a plus.
Okay.
And and it's just a different environment. And I was asked to come out here. My significant other, she got a Fulbright, and and of course I didn't want to send her to a third world country by herself. So
sure.
So not only was I able to, I guess, fulfill my responsibility as a man, but also it was an opportunity to see something different, do something different, and I'll tell you, it's been wonderful for the month that I've been here.
Excellent, man. That's awesome, man. Much respect for that. As a matter of fact, man, anybody that knows me knows that my favorite rapper of all time is Common. I still call him by his old name, Common Sense, And, back in the day, Common Sense, man. I'm an 80s baby, man, all day. Hip-hop head all day.
I was going to say, man, when did he change his name? How many years ago was that been?
Oh, man, it had to been, I want to say that was back in like the mid-90s. It was like some kind of lawsuit situation or something like that. They had to change it to Common or something like that. I think that's what happened.
Really?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah,
you a super fan right there.
Hey,
brother.
bro, I am a fan, bro, a real Common fan from back in the day. Man, he had a song called Respiration, man. My favorite line, man. He had a song with Mos Def and Talib Kweli called Respiration. He said, "I asked my guy how he thought traveling the world sounds. I found it hard to imagine he hadn't been past downtown." And it's just kind of speaking to not having a broad perspective, or not being able to broaden your perspective if you stay in one spot. So for you, like being out of the country, have you found yourself kind of, picking up on new insights, and maybe things that you were already engaged in, just kind of seeing different angles of how to approach it,
Well, some of that, I would say a lot of it is just really, kind of seeing just a different way that people solve their disputes, different histories, and as far as like how people, communities evolve to what they are today. Like, for example, in Guyana, I found it really interesting that slavery did not last here very long. The black people here had a different attitude. They were more literate than the white folks, and they just refused to be slaves. So as a result, they had to bring indentured servants in from India, and that led to the country being run mostly by blacks and Indians, right?
Wow.
And I contrast that with America, where we had a different history, and it just kind of gives me insights into how things, play out differently, maybe based on attitudes as an individual or as a community. Some people just really ain't fit for slavery, and also just I think in a way it's like everywhere you go on Earth, you're gonna see human beings.
Sure.
Everywhere you go, the people are gonna be 2 arms, 2 legs, lungs, and regular people like us, same brains, all that. And what you see is human nature play out in a variety of ways in different environments. So you can gain insight from that. The same way you can understand basketball better. If you go watch the way the Chicago Bulls are playing against the Detroit Pistons, then you go watch how the Supersonics are playing against the Lakers. Then you go to Europe, how they play basketball in Europe and Turkey and all that, and it helps you understand basketball better, right? So I think that's probably where I've grown the most in this month that I've been here. I'm assuming the first month is just the beginning, but so far I've just kind of had some remarkable insights since I got here.
Cool, man. That's awesome, man. You mentioned that word growth, man. I want to go there for a second. Just talk about you for a second, right? You got a powerful story, man. Powerful story. Obviously you have an extensive list of degrees and educational achievements. I really just scratched the surface of it in my intro, but your journey, how you got to where you are, isn't without its hurdles. Take us back to young Boyce Watkins. I understand that you were born to a single mother, placed in special ed classes at an early age. I actually have experience working in the education system, so I want to ask you specifically about, as a young man, being placed in special education. Like, take us back to that. Did that set the tone for how you understood yourself, what you expected out of life? Did it become a motivation for you to achieve? Like, where does that experience fit in your story?
Education really didn't work out so well for me as a kid, I would say. I remember, I would try hard at school, but it just didn't seem to work out for whatever reason,
Okay.
And it didn't really, from what I recall, give me a lot of the foundation that I needed to be successful. I obviously learned something, but my story was kind of typical for a young black boy. I would spend more time in detention than I spent anywhere else, and my grades were really, really bad. I didn't make a single A in any class at any time until I got to college. I never made an A before. And so that I think that my university was, I guess, life. And my dad, my biological dad, wasn't around. I guess he was wherever dads go when they're not with their kids. And my stepfather would raise me, but he was a pretty young guy. So just in a way, I felt like in some ways, there were areas where I had to raise myself a little bit. Sure. I had good parents, so I respect them for what they did, but it was far from an optimal experience. But the good thing about it, though, is that in my journey, what I learned was, that I hold the keys to everything, almost everything when it comes to my outcomes in life. If I just, I realized, wait a minute, if I decide that I'm going to be smart at something, or I'm going to be successful, or I'm going to be tough, or I'm going to be whatever it is, I get to shape that, And so the best thing I could say that came out of sort of this very unstructured, sometimes potentially borderline destructive scenario in some cases was that I learned, wait a minute, this car is going out of control, but I can take the wheel of it, which is a very different experience from a child who has parents that create a structured environment and they make every decision for them. And you know what I mean? Like all that. I didn't have all of that.
Very interesting.
And so, yeah, man. So I'd say that was the best thing, was learning that the keys to my kingdom, in terms of success in life, most of those keys came from me. I could just, and when I figured that out early, after that, everything was, I wouldn't say easy, but it was very straightforward from that point on.
Now, see, that's very interesting. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but it's kind of, you're kind of expressing like this kind of self-reliance, internally motivated. I don't really hear a victimization kind of narrative coming from you. I find that interesting because I would wonder, does your perspective on kind of taking control of your own destiny, does it put you at odds at times with other leaders in the Black community who may spend more time thinking about victimization and things like that?
Yeah, all the time. It does a lot, because I'm not going to say that we haven't been attacked,
sure,
or even have been victims. It's like, but the way it's kind of like, victimhood should not be a destination. It could be a stop on your journey to empowerment, but you can't stop that journey halfway through and just sort of live in the world of victimhood. Like it's like with the United States. The United States was the World Trade Center and the U.S., they were victims of the attacks in 9/11, right?
Sure.
We were clearly victims in that situation. They blew up the building, people died, etc. But they didn't stay in the world of victimhood. They didn't sort of just sit and spend 20 years mulling over how they were victimized. They said, okay, now it's time for us to make somebody else pay a price.
Make somebody pay, right.
You know what I mean?
Sure,
yeah.
yeah.
You blew up our building, we can take your country. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong at all. People can decide that for themselves.
True.
But I can say that you never benefit when you remain the victim. You might have really been the victim, but you never benefit from constantly defining yourself as a victim. What benefit you get? I mean, you've kind of given away all of your own equity and control over your own outcomes, and you don't benefit from that. It's not going to make you more successful. It's not going to make you happier. So I just kind of decided, I think most of the time, whenever I get a chance to figure out at least one little, even if I can only control 1% of the outcomes, I'm going to focus on that 1%.
Yeah.
And that's going to be it. I'm not going to worry about the 99% that I don't control. I'm going to focus on 1%. And that's kind of been my philosophy. Not that it's the right one, but the one that keeps me from losing my dang mind in this crazy world that we live in.
Sure. And so drawing from your own experience then, again, looking at the special education piece, I think that's something that really resonates with a lot of African-American families. I mean, obviously young Black boys are disproportionately represented in the special education track, I guess you could say. I mean, do you think that is that an area where we just kind of really need to take the reins? I mean, do you see, special education as like a legitimate way to educate children in our community, or is it an impediment that we just need to kind of take hold of and go in a different direction?
Special ed is legitimate, when it's optimized, when it's been properly diagnosed, and when it's what the child truly needs, and you're truly doing your best to get the child, their best shot at success. The problem in America is not special education itself. It's the misapplication of special education. Doing it wrong, doing it for the wrong kids, defining a child as being borderline retarded when he's every bit as normal as everybody else. He's just different.
Sure.
You define him as being inferior. And I would just say that it just says for Black folks, you just can't trust these white people to educate your kids like that. You can't trust them to shape your child's future, because there's nothing that exists in a white supremacist system that, on a broad, basic, systematic level, is geared and wired to create Black success in America for anything other than some lucky Negroes who are allowed to fully assimilate. A couple of Black people can fully assimilate and they get lucky and they do okay, but even those individuals aren't always happy. There's nothing, like if I'm a white male, there's a whole system designed to give me opportunities to succeed and to make me a man and shape my identity in all kinds of constructive ways. For Black people, we just don't have that in this system. So I don't believe in the system. Most of it, I just kind of avoid it as much as possible, because I feel like there's nothing there for me as a Black man.
Now, interesting. So from your perspective as a parent, like, how do we do this? Like, how do we step in and help our young Black boys and girls, to get more interested in, their education, entrepreneurship? Like, how does a parent, that single mom or even a two-parent home, how do they do that? How do they really take ownership of their child's education in that way and help them to make that shift and understand the importance of it?
Well, for one thing, when you talk about education, we live in an era where there's a ton of information out there available for free on the internet. The internet and Google Google.com is the best university in the history of the world. There's
right.
no topic that is taught in school that you can't learn on YouTube and all of that, And so I encourage parents to just really think about their education in a creative way, where you realize what education is. It's just kind of it's the psychological development of a young person in a way that allows them to, fit into society, achieve specific objectives, and, become empowered in a variety of ways. So to me, it's all about filling their brain up with a bunch of stuff that is going to help them to achieve some, the situation calls for. So your child is always learning. When they're listening to the radio, they're learning. They just might be learning all the wrong stuff. They listen to the rapper Future, they're going to learn what Molly and Percocet is. And, they listen to Nicki Minaj, they're going to learn, or whatever, how to swallow a corn dog or whatever the crazy stuff is that she teaches in her music. So what we got to do is just kind of ensure that there's a healthy diet of good information, positive information that's being given to our children. And I think that and it doesn't have to be structured. It doesn't have to just be sit down here and do this work. It can also be just conversations. I love educating kids by just talking to them about life.
Yeah.
I talked to a young black man the other day, and I was explaining to him where you get money from. I said, best way to get money is learn how to start your own business and learn technology. You learn technology and business, that's where the money's at. And I was, you can't tell me I wasn't educating him.
Sure.
And then at that point, once he gains a desire to learn more about those things, then I believe children take over the process on their own. I think that, for example, a parent does not teach a child, that they should want the latest iPhone. Most parents don't do that. Media does that. Media teaches them that, that having the latest iPhone is kind of the cool thing to do. Their friends teach them that. They see their friends with the latest iPhone. So then once they get that desire, they fill in the blanks. They figure out how to get the money. They figure out where the iPhones are being sold. You know what I mean? They figure out how they're going to get a bus ride over there to the iPhone store. They fill in the blanks.
Right.
So I think that just sort of, giving them the taste of the things they might desire out of life and creating the incentive and the drive for those things, that then leads the young person to fill in the void. The example I'll give on that is my grandmother. My grandmother, was the first person to introduce me to financial theory and to investing. And now, was my grandmother, an investment advisor? No. Was she a finance professor? No. Did she have experience in the industry? No. She didn't have a bachelor's degree in finance. She didn't have a bachelor's degree in anything. But she bought me savings bonds and talked to me about, she said, Coco, that was my nickname. She said, Coco, if you get your money, don't spend it all. Things like that.
All right.
And the little things that my grandmother said to me created a desire within me to gain a deeper understanding of how finance and money works. So she opened the door, and then I walked through it. Next thing you know, 25 years later, I've got a PhD in finance. I've studied with the best, brightest people on the planet in this topic. And I'm talking to my grandmother about the things that she taught me when I was little, and that's all that opened the door. So you don't have to be a genius to open an intellectual door for your child. You just got to want to try, and you have to have the belief that you can do it.
Yeah, you mentioned that word desire, a child having the desire to be able to move in that direction. Now, I think you're absolutely right, man. I mean, there's a lot of competition for that kind of brain space with the youth, between the rappers, the athletes, and so on. And so in terms of helping helping them to see, entrepreneurship as being something that's attractive and accessible to them. I mean, I know for you, you've made it your life's mission, to increase the financial well-being of the Black community. Would you say that all Black entrepreneurs have that obligation or responsibility to be accessible, be those role models and resources for the Black community?
I would say that, yeah. I would say if you care about Black people and you have something you can contribute, why wouldn't you want to contribute something to the to the process? And it doesn't have to be a completely selfless transaction. One mistake that people make is when they talk about lifting the Black community, they think in terms of charity. They see the Black community as a pathetic charity case where all successful people should give something, and the community is so weak that they can't give anything back. And I don't believe that. The best way to develop any community is not through charity; it's through investment. And this isn't just me, philosophizing. This is proven. If you watch a documentary like Poverty Inc., Poverty Inc. shows that African countries and third world countries do not benefit from the endless amounts of poverty and charity or ins and outs of charity that are being done, you know, through these little telethons and all this other stuff, because it just doesn't empower the community to be able to sustain itself. So what people are now saying is the best way to strengthen these communities, which is true for the Black America as well, is to not, you know, just give them fish, but to, you know, teach them how to fish, but also to partner and invest in those communities. You know, so for example, in my own life, you know, with my own kids and any other young person that wants my help, you know, I don't sit here and say, oh, well, let me make a donation to your success. Let me just give you some money. Let me just give you some. I say, no. Instead, you come work for me. Now, here's what's happening now. I'm going to give you 10 times more than what you asked. So 10 times more money, 10 times more knowledge, 10 times more time, love, and respect, and all these things you want. But you're going to give me some labor. I need a worker. I need an employee, and I'm gonna train you on all these things. I'm gonna get you some training programs and all this other stuff, and then you're gonna come and work with me. And you're also gonna give me a chance to get an employee for my company without having to pay $1 million out of my pocket. Sure. You know, LeBron does that. LeBron James, you know, he'll send his friend. He sent a couple of his friends to school to learn a skill, and then in exchange for them learning the skill, they had to come work for him. So that's what you call, you know, that's an investment, and that's a more sustainable way of elevating the community. So what us, hoity-toity, educated, well-to-do Black people need to do is stop thinking about what you can give to the Black community and start thinking about what you can invest in the Black community. And then that way, it's not a win-lose. It's not a zero-sum game, like where the more the community gets, the more it drains me. It's the more the community wins, the more I'm winning. Like these NBA players, they got all these millions of dollars sitting around. Stop doing nothing but charity. I mean, do some charity. Of course, everybody should do a little bit of charity. Sure. But instead, take that $10 million and get with some business experts. Start you a corporation or 2 or 3 or 10, and hire these individuals to come in, and you might have to train them up and work with them. But let these people, come and work with you, and give them some equity, give them a good salary, and then you're going to get your $10 million back tenfold, and the community benefits as well. So that's what we need to aim for.
That's fascinating, because as I'm hearing you, I'm thinking back to something I've heard you say in some of your videos and teachings about the culture of entrepreneurship. In the Black community, we just don't seem to have that culture just readily available. I mean, obviously, you can go into any hood and you got the Asians with the laundry mats, the Arabs got the Indians got the gas station, nail salons, the Koreans, and so forth. But for most of us, when we think about Black men, we only associate them with working for somebody else. But kind of what I hear you saying is really partnering with folks that you want to bring along and really bringing them into that culture of entrepreneurship. As you're doing that, like, kind of, what are some things that you share with a young brother, or sister, in terms of them, getting started? I mean, somebody comes to you and say, hey man, I got $1,000. Which way do I go? Kind of, what is your starting point, for doing that?
Well, my starting point is to kind of introduce them to the fundamentals of wealth. The key to getting rich really is, A, learning where the money's at, B, learning how to keep the money you get, and C, learning how to grow the money that you have. And notice, all 3 of those points start with the word learned. And so what I say to people is, you might not have all the capital that you want, but you must understand that capital is not just how much money you have. Capital is also your free time. It's what et cetera. So, when you are sitting there, let's say you're unemployed, or you don't have, or you just got some extra time on the weekends and at night. Well, that is capital that you can invest to earn more capital. So you spend that time initially just learning, just getting indoctrinated into the culture of entrepreneurship, learning, the code of killing what you eat. That's what entrepreneurs have to be able to do. So it's not an easy life all the time, and then, worry about the money stuff later on. Like initially, you just got to learn, just how to think like an entrepreneur, So I tell people, what I used to do was I would go bike ride on these long bike rides, and I would play my headphones, and I would be playing these podcasts where they would talk to entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs would tell their stories. They'd ask them questions, and it would just stimulate all these ideas and awareness of things I didn't even know about, a whole new world I didn't even know existed. And then what I did was I started, taking classes and reading books on the fundamentals and just understanding the key concepts. And also I looked for classes that were being taught by entrepreneurs who actually done it, who actually made money. So I wasn't looking for like professors in business schools, who can tell you what's in a book. When most of them have never actually run a business before.
Mm-hmm.
Most professors in business schools will teach you how to go work for somebody and do a good job, but most of them can't really teach you how to work for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I started learning from people who had done it. To me, your degree was not a piece of paper that the university gave you. Your degree to me was where you could show me that you made $2 million doing the exact same thing you're about to teach me how to do right now. If you made a bunch of money doing it, doing the thing already, then that makes you the perfect teacher in my mind.
Gotcha.
Because what happens is a lot of times, that pathway to success, there's like a lot of little things that people don't know. It's almost like let's say that somebody says, they're going to the NBA and they say, I want to be the next Michael Jordan.
Okay.
And, the same height, same weight, same vertical leap, same ball handling skill, same everything. But that doesn't mean you know how to win a championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that part about being able to really win a championship would involve literally thousands of hours of training in all the little things that most of the players do not know. So really, to really learn how to win a championship, you don't have to play on a team with a championship player, because you're going to get to a point where there's nothing really in a book that can teach you how to win a title. You got to be playing next to LeBron or playing next to MJ to know like all the little nuances that make the difference between, a really good athlete and a guy that actually gets to hoist the trophy up. And I think entrepreneurship is kind of the same way. I see a lot of people that have a lot of education, they work really hard, they got a lot of skill, and they just can't figure out the right formula to get their economic engine started. And that's where you want to be in an environment for people that have figured out that magic formula, where they have learned to turn water into wine, so to speak. And then that's when the magic starts to really happen.
That preparation, yeah. So in regard to your point, so with LeVar Ball, he claims that he could beat Michael Jordan. So you're saying that you wouldn't put your money on him if they went head to head. He didn't have the right preparation. You're not banking on LeVar, huh?
LeVar might prove me wrong by really selling a lot of shoes. I'm really happy for him. I hope he makes a lot of money with that. But on the basketball court, no. Him against MJ, I'm going to have to throw my money on Mike.
Yeah, right. Got you. So let's shift gears here a little bit, man, because you're talking about entrepreneurship, we're talking about culture, and I feel like that's really what the All Black National Convention is all about. Can we talk a little bit about that, man? You've got that coming up in a couple weeks. I want to say September 29th. For those who would attend the All Black National Convention, what are some things that they could expect to learn and experience?
Well, the All Black National Convention was created literally almost like a stroke of inspiration from God. I just literally woke up and said, we need a convention. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's really one of those moments, where your spirituality carries you, because you're sitting here thinking, how am I going to pull this off? Where are we going to get the money?
Sure.
Nobody's even going to come to this thing.
Right.
But I felt, I followed my instinct, and my instinct said, we need our own convention, and you can do this. Because a lot of the events that we see in the Black community don't really represent people anymore. They don't, maybe it's something for Hollywood or something for the Democratic Party or something for these corporations, but you just don't see, I don't know, I'm not saying they're not trying their best, but you just don't see real action kind of coming out of this. I feel like there's just a whole level of a Black agenda that just is being completely ignored, and I don't think the solutions are that difficult. And so the All Black National Convention was kind of built to be the convention that I would want to attend myself, and that a lot of the people I know would want to attend, who wouldn't want to go to some of the other things that are out here. And so our belief is that it doesn't matter what your political disposition is, if you Democrat, Republican, rich, poor, educated or not. You could be Pan-Africanism or Pan-African or something different. That doesn't matter. What matters is, do you put Black people first? That's it. In fact, we don't have a slogan, but if we had one, it would be called the convention where we put Black people first. And if you put
that on the flyer, right?
Yeah, you know what? We didn't put it on the flyer, but we should.
Yeah,
we should. And I'll tell you, that's really it. That's why I spoke to guys. There are a lot of people I couldn't invite, because I didn't feel like they put Black people first. I'm talking about prominent, famous, people on TV and all that. And I think, this person is famous, but they don't really have a lot to offer, and I think also it's a convention for people that are looking for something different, people that want to actually build for the future. So we want people that are that want to come together and network with other Black folks who have tapped into this new illness called common sense. When I say that, what I mean is, I'll talk to people like, for example, my homeboy Chris Broussard and some other people, and we'll just look around at the insanity in the Black community, and we'll be like, what is going on out here? This don't make no sense. Why are millions of people supporting this thing? It don't make no sense. And so I'm looking for people like that so we can shape the world into the image that we believe it should become. So we're going to have people there who are from every type of community. There are going to be a lot of pastors there, because there's actually a strong reparations movement within the Black church for some of the progressive members that are actually putting pressure even on the white churches to do the Christian thing and to actually pay reparations. Because if you look at history, the church played a big part in supporting slavery, and robbing Black folks. So there are some good, brothers in our community as well as in non-Black church community that understand this. They understand the role the white church has to pay on reparations. We're bringing in people like Zaza Ali, who's more on the Pan-African side. But she's more to the empowerment of women that goes outside of white feminism. She believes in the empowerment of Black women in a way that is unique to them, and not sort of white feminism in blackface. And that's people like her, Shaquita Graham, Michelle Martin, and others. And we got people like Jay Morrison. Jay Morrison is a real estate expert who he created the Tulsa Fund. And the Tulsa Fund is in the process of raising millions of dollars that will be used to go and basically do Black gentrification, to buy buy up blocks and buildings and communities all throughout the world. We got educational experts like Dr. Roosevelt Mitchell III, who's the executive producer of a film called Raising a Black Scholar. And Raising a Black Scholar is all about raising children that are Black and educationally empowered, without sort of being dampened by white supremacy. Dr. Kevin Cosby, the president of Simmons College, will be there. Who's another couple? Oh, and then people from the hip-hop community. We bring in Willie D from the Ghetto Boys, actually, has become a huge activist on behalf of the people in Houston and other parts of it. Yeah, so he's coming through, along with a vigilante, a rapper out of Kansas City, Jay Ortiz out of Philadelphia. And we just want people that just, are not afraid to have a politically incorrect conversation. White folks won't be watching. We won't have to mince our words because we're afraid of offending our sponsors, McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Bank of America. We will not have sponsors like that. We will not have, Black liberation. Black liberation will not be brought to you by Walmart. The revolution will not be televised by Coca-Cola. So we don't have any corporate sponsors. We don't allow that. We also do not allow any overt affiliation of the convention with any political party, especially not the Democrats or the Republicans or really anybody else. And so we want Black people to be free and to build. And what we find is that people that come there, they feel so much love and camaraderie and connection, and you see businesses come out, or you see marriages come out. I mean, it's beautiful, man. I mean, it was better than I thought it would be. And that's what told me that, that God's vision is bigger than my vision. And that, when I did it, I didn't really know it was going to do what it did last year, and it did even more than I expected. So I'm moving forward with faith on it, because Lord knows we ain't got the kind of budget to do multi-major conventions. You know what I mean? But we're making it work. So we're very excited about it.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. Well, yeah, I got to ask you this question, man. One of the themes that I understand is kind of coming out of this convention, or this convention is wrapped around, is you said one of the things that you and the other leaders will not do is beg other folks to give us more jobs. I think that's pretty powerful. Can you go in on that as to why that's such an important principle for the convention?
Because if you are a woman who's been abused by men, are you really liberated when a pimp offers you a better corner to work on? Are you really?
Okay.
I mean, really. Think about this. I mean, white supremacy is a system. It's a system that affects Black people in almost every walk of life: criminal justice, economic, etc. And most Black people are miserable. If they're miserable or upset about white supremacy, they're unhappy because of the way they're being treated every day at work. So If we think that the solution to black empowerment is to give black people more jobs, that just don't make no sense. I mean, why would you more deeply commit black folks to the torture chamber of a racist economic system? Because believe me, the reason white supremacy exists is because we contribute so much to it. You contribute 40 hours a week of labor to white supremacist corporations that don't like you and don't respect you. You could easily put that labor in other places. There are people that put their 40 hours a week into their family business. You know, there are people that, you know, put their labor into, you know, things they believe in. So you don't have to be there. You just kind of think that you have to be there. So I just really don't really see how we could be liberated or free if more of us are even more deeply embedded and more deeply committed to supporting these institutions that we feel are so discriminatory toward us. I argue that we're better off when we develop institutions of our own. So the three key principles that we believe in are that, you know, number one, black people should be educating our own children. 2, we should be able to create our own jobs. And 3, we should support black businesses by any means necessary. If we did those 3 things, you'd be amazed at how much your life changes. You know, my life, I don't really get as mad about white supremacy or racism because it doesn't affect my day-to-day life. I can go 6 months without talking. I can go 6 months without having a single conversation with a white man. And so it's hard for me to get mad at them if they're not around.
Well,
you know?
Yeah, that's true.
So sometimes, right. So while we think that the way to fight white supremacy is to show up to work and fight against that system and everything, another way to fight it is to get out. Just get out. Just get away. You know, like in a relationship. Right? You know, you gotta, you know, you got a partner in your marriage or your relationship that's abusive and mean and beat you up every day and mistreat you. Yeah, you can show up and you can fight back. You can come back with a gun or whatever, or argue with them all day long. But then sometimes if somebody's that destructive as white supremacy has been toward us and consistently destructive, then you just say, you know what? I used to fight with you when I loved you. Now I don't love you no more, and I don't want to fight with you. So I wish you the best. I'm gonna be in my mama's house. You know, and I think you know, I really think that is always an option. I think we forget that. Like we show our love for our oppressor by being so caught up in what our oppressor is doing, what our oppressor thinks about us. You know how they, you know, what they put us through. When the reality is that really is kind of a choice.
Well, let me ask you that. I mean, just kind of maybe push back slightly. You know, in regard to where the black community is now, I mean, do we have the resources to create those jobs, employ our own people, you know, and do we even have the mentality to do it? I mean, you know, are we in a place right now where that could be a reality?
Well, let's just say this. Black people are very wealthy compared to the rest of the world. We're just not wealthy compared to white people. When you look at the gross domestic product and the spending power of black Americans, we have more spending power than the GDP of 95% of the countries on this planet. So we're not really broke people. We're just broken people. You know, it's that second piece. That first piece about having the resources, there's no question about it. I mean, a business is something that, you know, businesses and, you know, one day go watch a group of people that are really good entrepreneurs. Really good entrepreneurs, they can make a business out of nothing. You give them $20 and some free time, and they'll come back with a working business in a minute. You know, almost like those survivalists that can go out into the woods and you give them a knife and a sleeping bag and, you know what I mean, and a compass, and next thing you know, they done did something amazing because they understand how to survive so well. You know, so really the ability to kind of develop business and industry doesn't really come down to your resources. It really comes down to your know-how, which is deeply connected to your culture. You know, what do you invest your energy learning how to do? Where do you invest your time? Well, what I see when I see the black community, you know, don't start off as children. And what I see with black children is I see a deep, deep commitment to investing tons and tons of time into learning a lot of things that really don't matter. You know, learning how to do the latest dances. Everybody knows how to do the wobble except me. I'll never know how to do the wobble.
Well, me either.
I'm
right.
like,
Okay.
I ain't trying to do the wobble. I don't, you know, why am I going to waste time learning how to do the wobble? I don't care about doing the wobble. I'm working. I'm trying to build a business.
Wobbling
and broke. Right. We become very over-invested in learning how to play sports. You know, in sports and entertainment, that consumes a lot of our time. A lot of the sisters, you'll see them spend a lot of time whether it's trying to look a certain way or keeping up with the storyline of love and hip hop or selfies on Instagram. You see a lot of our young people invest a lot of time in things that do not empower them. And what I simply say is that a lot of the transformation in our relationship with white supremacy can occur by a simple transformation of culture. If we spend time, if all of our children spend time learning survival skills necessary to succeed in white supremacist society, then white supremacy wouldn't work. Just like in Guyana, the people in Guyana have, for what I understand, their literacy rate is higher than the United States. And so the black folks here, they're not spending time on foolishness. They spend time reading books.
Right.
And then what happened when the white folks tried to make them into slaves? It didn't work. It's hard to enslave. It's hard to enslave an enlightened and an educated and courageous person with high self-esteem. Like how pimps don't go after the girl who went to college and who had a good daddy who loved her. They go after the girl who's stuck on the corner with no money, who thinks she's fat and ugly, and you know what I mean, and all this other stuff, who doesn't understand things very well. Maybe she has a drug addiction. He goes after that girl. He doesn't go after the one who's fully, who's healthy. He was a healthy mind, right? So for black folks, we're kind of fit for the exploitation that we receive because our minds are not healthy. If our minds were healthy, white supremacy would probably wash away. And
that's fascinating because I know, you wrote a book about George Bush. What it had been like if he were black, and you mentioned a lot about white supremacy and some of the advantages that white folks have in that book. And it sounds like there may have been some type of a perspective shift for you, whereas now it sounds like, or maybe it's just a different side of Boyce Watkins, but it sounds like the onus is more so on about the black empowerment piece, and forget white supremacy. We gonna do what we got to do regardless. Is that kind of where you're coming from now? Has there been a shift in your thinking?
Absolutely. I've evolved a lot since I wrote the book. I wrote the book in 2004, and at that time, Bush was actually very popular because the Iraq War just started. Whenever there's a war, the president becomes very popular, and I got a lot of flack from that book, but I stood by what I said. And I still stand by a lot of what I said. I think that now what kind of occurred is I lost my faith in white folks. I think what happens is white liberals kind of fool you into thinking that if you can just get enough of them on your side, that you can make things better, and that they hold the key to your salvation. That if I can just get out here in front of, some white folks and convince them that what they're doing is wrong, they're going to come out and they're going to help me. And some of them really do want to do the right thing. I mean, go back to slavery. There were thousands and thousands of white people who died over slavery, and they didn't even own any slaves or never were slaves. Sure. So there is some commitment there. There's some respect that should be shown to those people who truly try to be supportive of what we're doing. But at the end of the day, there must be a sovereignty. We cannot become a white liberal charity case, which is kind of what we always have been. The same way white folks, like if they decide they want to save the whales or they want to protect their dogs, like white people love their dogs, they really do, but they'll never see the dog as being their equal. They'll never see the dogs as being a class of people that are capable of truly protecting themselves because they're animals. And I think for black folks, you got to understand that a lot of these white liberals that might fight for you and support you, you have to make them respect you. And they'll never respect you if you have to always depend on them to get the very basics of the things that you need, every day. Like if a man comes to my house and he brings his family and he's trying to stay, in my house because he's got nowhere to go and all this other stuff, sure, I might help him out for a while, but eventually, I'm going to kind of look at him and say, man, like, can't you go get a job or can't you take care of your own kids? Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's real. That's real.
And if he tries to, and if at any point he really tries to act like we're equals, when I've sat there and watched him for a year, not even be able to take care of his own children, if we ever run into conflict, I'm going to win that argument. Because I'm going to say to him, like, look at you, man. You can't even take care of your own children. You need to get up out of my house right now.
Right.
And that's what happens with white liberals. If you're black, is that if you're not careful, you can end up trading sort of the evil pimp for the benevolent pimp. And at the end of the day, you still got a pimp. You still got somebody else that controls you because you don't you've never learned, any type of self-reliance.
Right. Well, on that note, man, I know I got to get ready to let you go. I appreciate your time. If I can end out with one last question, kind of end on a high note. What are, maybe three, 4, 5 things that blacks can do? What can we do right now to make us a stronger people?
Well, first of all, I would stop consuming most of the media that you see out here. Most of the media is not healthy. These stupid shows like Empire and even stuff like Scandal. It's not productive. The reality shows are just terrible. So I would let go of a lot of that and start, finding some good black media to support. That I think that would be something that we can all do. I think buying black by any means necessary, kind of talking about the importance of it, I think goes a long way. If you can support a black business, just realize you're feeding black children, you're supporting a black family. So even if the product, the socks that you thought were going to be $10 actually cost you $12, but just know your $12 is going to, take care of a black family. It's not, going to Walmart where they're going to take the money and go buy another yacht. This money is actually going back into your community. So buying black is important. I think that every black person, every black child in America, let's start. Let me say it the right way.
Okay. Every
person who influences any child should know that every black child in America should know how to start a business by the age of 12. This is important, especially for the boys. It's important for the girls because when girls know how to handle their money and make their own money, then a man can't control them with money. But for the boys, it's important because for black men, black men have been emasculated. They've been watered down and weakened, turned into little boys. And a lot of the reason you're emasculated is because you get economically castrated. Because, you're learning how to dribble basketballs and throw footballs while the wealthy white kids are learning how to, manage stocks and bonds and investments and start businesses. So to me, for black boys especially, there must be a transfer of energy where even if you are playing the sports and doing all the other things, understand that when you get into the world of grown men aren't competing on the basketball court and the football field. Most grown men are competing, in the boardrooms. They're competing on the economic landscape, the game of global economic warfare. And you must be prepared to fight, So I think with our children, that's where the real hope lies. I think that every child should know as much about investing as they know about finding a job. In fact, if I had a child now, I wouldn't even teach that child to fill out a job application unless they forced me to teach them. Wow. Instead, I would teach them how to fill out a form for an LLC. Okay. Instead, I would teach them how to go, download an app to invest in stocks. You know what I mean? So I think that just basic things like that, like shifting the culture, will go a long way. And you can't save all the black people. Every black person ain't gonna get on the boat. But you can create a space where those of us in that so-called talented 10th, if you want to call it that, who actually are the visionary 10th, can actually create children who will become the job creators for the masses in the next generation. Man. We don't need 40 million black people to understand this message. We just need about maybe a million. If a million black folks or if a million children in this generation got this message and understood it and applied it, then that would be enough to create, 40, 50 million jobs in the next generation. I truly believe that.
Wow. Man, that's powerful, man. You just gave us a meat sandwich of some marching orders there, man, to get the black community on the right track, man. You kind of that word time kept coming up, man. I know you talk about time is capital. You hurt me a little bit because that Madden 2018 just came out, man. I'm trying to not spend all my days and nights playing that, but I'm gonna have to remember that, man. Time is capital. You know what I'm saying? But hey, I just want to say I appreciate you, brother.
Time is money, but time what, is man, money. You can still have fun, but I've been the whole interview. I've been talking to you, man. I've been sitting in the swimming pool, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying don't enjoy your life. I'm saying just make sure you make the investment so you can enjoy your life more as time goes on. A lot of people, they only live for today and don't plan for the future. And then their future, they wonder why their futures are not what they want them to be. So that's the message. But I will never be one to say that we shouldn't have fun.
So I can get a little bit of mad then. But hey, man, Dr. Boyce, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. As we mentioned earlier, we got you have the All Black National Convention will be held in Louisville, Kentucky at Simmons College from September 29th to October 1st. So I definitely encourage folks to get on down there and check that out. To all my listeners now out there, we love y'all. And as always, strong in the Lord.
All right.
King, you can hear it when I rhyme. I'm a king, renewed in my mind. I'm a king, I got a different bloodline. I'm a king, jump, I am a king. I'm a king.